who was a fictional character you disliked at first but eventually grew to love. Madame of Azula, from The Expanse. At first she's just shown to be like any other cutthroat politician, but as the show goes on, it becomes increasingly clear that she is one of the few people with power who don't just see it as that, power. She actually tries to make the solar system a better place, or at least stops it from blowing itself up, and while her methods are definitely unorthodox and sometimes morally wrong on their own, in the end she does just that. Okay, I am not cut out for this kind of complicated talk. I can barely figure out just enough to understand how much deeper it goes. This is who I'd say, not because he was super terrible, but because I thought for sure the show would do the same thing as a bunch of other shows, movies, and have him be that bad bully everyone hates as an unnecessary secondary antagonist. I was ready to be disappointed by the predictability of it, but wow, they really blew me away with his character development. TBF, apparently Steve was going to be a complete douche. For instance, Nancy wasn't going to have consensual sex with him, he was supposed to rape her, but they realized the actor was too likable and they switched it up to redeem him. So the earlier scenes with Steve might have been written with the "this guy is gonna be a total douche" mindset, hence your first impression. I have a lot more issues with Jonathan not only watching as Nancy undresses and has sex for the first time with Steve, but taking goddamn pictures of it too. I'm Team Steve all the way. The conversation between him and Arya about the origin of his scars was one of my favorite scenes. One of the very few things I liked in Season 8 was how in their last interaction with each other, they actually used each other's names, instead of just Hound and Girl. It was a nice way to demonstrate how they had completely changed how they thought of one another. Unfortunately, for the rest of Season 8 and 7, the Hound's dialogue was reduced to fucking cunt in various forms. Very well handled. He was originally presented as a simple villain with some hidden depth, but when the show eventually started digging, there was just more to it than expected. His transformation was great, and they did it by giving him what he wanted. He got his recognition and returned to the Fire Nation, and that is what sparked his change to turn from it. Throughout the series he just got better and better. He's the definition of character development, and Ren Yeager is a good example of it going the other way. Over 4 seasons he gradually goes from an idealistic and driven protagonist to a bona fide supervillain. And like how Atla fans don't acknowledge the Shyamalan movie, fans likewise pretend that the last 3 chapters of the manga never happened. Amos Burton from The Expanse. I thought he was just some brainless wannabe tough guy that just wanted to fight when I watched through Season 1, aka a low-budget copy of Jane from Firefly. It took about 3 years, 2 more seasons and a couple of rewatches from that first watch-through for me to fully get his character, plus binging Ty and That Guy on YouTube, but it was probably by Season 2 on my first watch-through that I was like, damn, he's growing on me. All I can say to every Expanse fan ever, read the books, they are so fucking good, and they actually add a lot of depth to an already great show. In a book they can spend a couple paragraphs going into detail to describe or explain some minor little thing, then the show actually manages to bring it to life, but in a show it would be weird to call attention to it. Fixed some wording. Agree. Also felt the same about Bobby. She was a bit overly gung-ho at the beginning, but she's now one of my favorites, especially because of this scene. Bobby, that belter girl made food of Azula. What? Bobby, food, you put it in that hole in your face. I kind of had that problem with pretty much everyone on Season 1. Everybody had roughly the same personality of I'm always angry about something and will punch you just as soon as look at you. That is common in TV shows and movies when they are trying to impress you with how serious they are. Some had differing degrees of idealism behind it, but that was about it. Took a while before I started to see more nuanced characteristics. Book Amos is so much better than show Amos. but the show couldn't have done any better with him. I think the character loses something when you don't get any of his internal dialogue from his par sections. His entire arc is that of a kid that was so badly abused that he became a complete psychopath, but he knows that's not a good thing to be and is trying to change, eventually. I was sure nobody would comment Sawyer as this show ended over 10 years ago, but here it is. If anyone hasn't seen this show, Lost holds up all these years on. Almost everyone in Lost undergoes such a change over the series, some for the better, some for the worse. Ben Linus also comes to mind. Unfortunately, many people skip it because of the misinformation spread about the Kenting, claiming they were dead the whole time since the plane crash, which anyone who actually watched the show knows isn't true, but seemed to enter public consciousness anyway. Thank you, and I agree big time. If anyone wants to find an example of a fictional character that truly has a great redemption arc, it's this character. She was unbearable in season 1, but afterwards I actually started to feel more sympathetic. She improved so much from being a racist homophobe to becoming best friends with Boo and Suzanne, both lesbians and one being black. I didn't hate him outright, but Yadu in Got 1 seemed like a typical hillbilly alien criminal who was one-dimensional. He was funny, but I didn't really give a shit about him. Got 2 rolls around and holy shit did they do a lot with him. Till this day, the ending of Got 2 is the only time I've cried at an MCU movie. Yes, nothing else since has come close. Peggy Hill. I hated the character and found her more annoying than funny. That was until I realized that the writers were making as much fun of her in her quirks as they were with the other characters. Her huge ego and overconfidence make for some pretty funny moments, like when relating some story to Hank she says, "God told me not to but I knew better," or the time she reminds Hank to, "Remember what I told the doctor." Then there's her grasp of Spanish. I think that her early episodes were colored by her kleptomania and the whole storyline surrounding it. I still remember Skylar getting angry with Hank and going off about struggling with pregnancy, having a husband with cancer, a moody teenager, and not being able to afford to fix their water heater because of how little money she has, only to be told she needs to support her sister. Back then, we didn't really know those characters, so we didn't know that Marie would end up becoming one of the good characters on the show. Ahsoka is interesting because she was designed to dislike from the beginning. Dave Filoni knew when he made Clone Wars that any new character he made to be part of the team as a Padawan would be hated from the beginning, so he decided to control this by choosing the reasons she would be unlikable, then work to resolve those reasons through the show. The fact he pulled it off so well is a testament to his skill and talent. No one ever really considers life from Aang's perspective. To him, before escaping the air temple and getting frozen, he was just a 10-year-old boy. He had no clue that he was the destined avatar until the elders told him so. After that, his friends that he grew up with effectively abandoned him. The air nomads, while peaceful and noble as a whole, don't really know how to comfort this little boy who now has to shoulder the responsibility of the world on himself. In a way, I can see how going to Omashu to hang with Bummy was so necessary. He needed anybody that was a connection to his old life. He was frozen for a century, and so far the only person remaining alive is King Bummy, and at this point it appears that he's lost a lot of his mental faculties. He hasn't. He's had to grow harder and stronger in Aang's absence to keep Omashu running. It's the trials with Bummy that wake Aang up to the seriousness of what he's missed. Yes, Bummy is still light-hearted, but he was also completely willing, faking it, to kill Kitra and Sokka had Aang failed. This was the lesson: his enemies will not hesitate to kill those around him, and that Aang needs to steal his heart. Tony Stark was the goddamn backbone of the superhero community, and I will die on that hill. Was he cocky and arrogant? Yes, kinda happens when you're a genius with few intellectual rivals and not really raised to be humble. Despite that, he primarily took care of everything from damages to equipment, especially when S.H.I.E.L.D. went belly up. He dealt with the media. Despite Captain America being fucking Captain America, we never really see him do any PR for himself or his team. He was the one making the sacrifice play for everyone else in multiple movies before finally dying. Fuck you, Marvel. While everyone else might have put themselves out there once at best, and he did all of it while being shat on by everyone else. I keep a running list of these characters when I come across them in media. J. Jonah Jameson, Spider-Man movies by Sam Raimi, Baron Helmut Zemo, Captain America, Civil War, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, all over the MCU, Jaime Lannister, A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, Zuko, Avatar, The Last Airbender, Satsuki Kuruin and the Elite Four, Kill la Kill, Kidishu, Monogatari series. Most of the villains in Bungo Stray Dogs, except Fyodor. He's cool and all, but I didn't really go from hating to liking him. Kinda neutral about the character. Pinkie Pie, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Used to find her annoying AF, but the character developed and also grew on me. She's like a junior version of Deadpool with the wacky gags and fourth wall breaking feats. I'm middle-aged, so DBZ was my avatar and Vegeta is my favorite character of all time. Zuko has some of the best character growth in the series of Avatar, much like Vegeta. It just feels like these types of characters have to overcome harder challenges since they often are their own obstacle in their way. Unlike a lot of the heroes where they meet opposition and challenges, a lot of Zuko's challenges come from within, and his relationship with Daira, my second favorite in the show, is incredible. I love their relationship. Honestly, WTF was going on in the writer's room when they dreamed that character up? Okay, so we currently have an alien empire trying to invade a species of pacifist aliens while humans try to keep the peace. While we have mysterious shape-shifting aliens invading both of those aliens using a secret wormhole controlled by ancient alien gods. So we agree that we need a holographic off-brand Frank Sinatra to help move this plot along. Vegeta, arrogant prick who cares about no one but himself. But as the series went on, he changed. Most prominent change was Nakanjiel, and he became less of an anti-hero who pushes everyone away from him and more of a hero that really cares about the people close to him, but his head's so far up his ass he won't admit it. And I like him as a character much more like that, because his reason for being such a dick went from boo-hoo, I'm the prince of all science but my home planet blew up, come save me from the lizard man, Kakarat, to something much more complicated and intricate. I always find this a weird answer because he is the character that has the most exposition on how much of an evil what he is, possibly bar Voldemort, but not even necessarily, and he never even gets a real redemption arc. All that happens is we discover that he was apparently a double agent and then is killed literally immediately right after, without at any point actually ever doing anything substantial or shown to us that was actually meant to help in the war effort or against Voldemort. So as far as I'm concerned, he's just a creepy asshole psychopathic Nazi who was made up to be some sort of hero, despite never actually having any heroic actions or even the least bad guy to good guy redemption arc. The closest we got is when he regrets his stalker obsession getting killed as collateral damage after trying to get her husband and son murdered. Not to mention his abuse of not just Harry, but other students. Snape tries to deny Hermione medical attention at one point. And then there's Neville, a child who is so bullied by this teacher. See also, power imbalance. That by age 13 he is his worst fear. And why did Snape bully Neville so much? Well, you see, Neville also fit the requirements of being the chosen one, but Voldemort decided it was Harry. Snape bullied an 11-year-old because he wasn't targeted by a wizard Nazi and therefore Lily Potter was killed. In conclusion, fuck Snape. People like to love Snape because he played double agent to protect Harry, but like, why is he suddenly a hero for doing one good thing in his entire life? The rest of the Order are doing the same shit, but they do it because they are genuinely good people. And even when he is doing his protecting of Harry, he still bullies and does everything humanly possible to make Harry's life difficult. But all that is okay because he had an unreciprocated love for Lily. Snape, and by extension anyone who defends his character, are psychotic. I like him because he is a great example of a flawed character, doing the right thing in a twisted way, based on emotions and not morals. There are manipulative, cruel, selfish people who will sacrifice themselves over love, reciprocated or not, in the real world. So I love to see it in literature where so often characters are simplified on the alignment scale. It's kind of refreshing to have a character that isn't clearly good or evil, but is rather riding both extremes. Mind you, I am probably psychotic though. Can't believe I had to come down this far to find Snape. When introduced to the character in the books, yeah, of course, everyone hated him. What's not to hate? Gradually, though, I came to suspect that something else was going on. Sure enough, of all the characters in that series, he's one of the most interesting and nuanced. Almost everyone else is either a good guy or a bad guy. Snape is complex and human. Sid Highwind from FF7. I thought he was a mean old man who was just mad because he had to be a good person and took it out on an innocent person. Then I had to start giving up on things that I'd worked hard for because of other people, or because of duty or pressure, or because of circumstance. I did what I thought was right and paid the price for it. And I got angry and misplaced the blame. Don't get me wrong, he's a bastard and not a good person, but no one in Avalanche is. And in my opinion that's one of the best themes about FF7, you don't have to be a good person to do good things. You don't have to be heroic to be a hero. Not really. I totally understand where she is coming from, but if you think she was completely in the right then you miss the point of these characters. Nobody was entirely right or wrong. It's more complex than that. Sure, we understood where Abby was coming from, but what she did to avenge her father cost her, not just in losing her friends, but it didn't make her feel fulfilled in the way she had hoped. She was so focused on getting revenge, it damaged her connections with the people who were still meaningful to her, and she paid the price for that. She is a very well-written character that I managed to tolerate after a while, but if you think she was in the right you also have to give that to Ellie as well. Abby left her traumatized. And if Abby couldn't let go of her need for vengeance she shouldn't have expected anything less from Ellie or Tommy. Guy, love you so much for that well thought out response. Lol, you are totally right. Of course, Abby didn't make herself feel any better by doing that to Joel, and I understand why Joel did what he did. I have a daughter that age, and I would sacrifice the world for her. I also totally understand how Abby would be so vindictive though. I'm really close with my father and would fuck someone up if they ever did that. Such a great game and experience overall. I've never had such a wide array of feelings from a game storyline. BTW, do you have any other game suggestions? Carl from Umbrella Academy. As a fresh one, he is the husband of Sissy, the love interest of Vanya, the main character. He is presented as a bad guy hanging out in bar drinking late and married to a bisexuality woman who does not accept it until our hero comes, and then her wife basically runs away with our hero and their child, as he end up dying. But when you think about it, and I know most people don't want to agree, as he is supposed to be a bad guy. He is a guy in a committed marriage. He works hard and earns good money. He loves his wife, does not cheat, he does not gamble. He has a child with special needs, which he loves and works hard to provide for. Only negative side is that he drinks at bars sometimes, but does not come and beat her wife for some toxic things, he just drinks. He is also such a good guy. When her wife hits a stranger with a car, he accepts the stranger to his home and care and provide for her too. Then his wife, who he loves, basically cheats on him with the stranger who he welcomed to his home and cared for. Not that wife also decides to leave him and literally kidnap the child, running off with the woman she cheated on him with. He also ends up being killed because he did not want to let his wife and child get stolen from him, and went nuts and put them on gunpoint. Basically, just because the wife is bisexual and runs away with the women, all of this is ignored and Guy is made to be the bad guy. Imagine your partner decides to cheat on you and kidnap your child, but you are the bad guy because you drank in a bar late. He is screwed up big time, and I grew to like him, because in any scenario that he is not presented as bad guy we would not see him as one. Got two for me. Kriya, From Colder 2. I thought she was super contradictory and annoying when I was younger, but when I was older and could actually understand her philosophy, she became one of my all-time favorite mentor and antagonist characters. Amity, from The Owl House. She starts off as a stereotypical mean girl perfectionist student, but is quickly shown to be a caring, intelligent and even passionate individual, and just so bloody cute with the other characters.